Welcome to Outside the Box. I'm Grant Pruitt, your host, featuring Zach Lewis, my producer. Say hi, Zach.
Grant, how's it going?
It's going great.
Yeah?
Yeah, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for joining me, Grant. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to welcome everybody today to our show. This is episode number 1, and I hope you continue to stick with us and continue to listen. What we're doing is a show on perspective and people's different perspective, things that are outside the box. And for me, background is incredibly important. I'm a real estate professional by trade. I'm the co-founder, president, and managing director of Whitebox Real Estate. Whitebox Real Estate's a privately held commercial real estate firm. We focus on office and industrial real estate. We have 4 verticals: tenant representation, which focuses exclusively on tenants, buyers, users of office and industrial space. We do investment sales, and that's really the representation of investors and sellers of office and industrial assets in the $15 to $200 million range. We do construction management, which is literally just that, managing the construction and move-in for tenants and users. And we also do development as well, which I think everybody is familiar with development.
A little bit. I mean, you know, as much as you can be.
Right, right. Personally, I'm a member of the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. That's the SIOR. That's the highest designation in our industry. It's comprised of the top 5% of real estate professionals globally, less than 2% of real estate license holders in the United States. It's 3,200 professionals, 630 cities across 34 countries. People ask me all the time, do you just do work in Dallas? We're headquartered here in Dallas-Fort Worth. We have an office in Plano. We have an office in Fort Worth. No, absolutely not. We do work all over the globe. I've been fortunate to work in North America, South America, Europe, Asia. I'm still looking for those deals in Antarctica, and got to do a couple in Africa as well. Cape Town wouldn't be too bad.
Cape Town?
Yeah, it'd be beautiful. Last year, our firm did work in over 20 states, 60-plus cities. Personally, I've done almost 3 million square feet of real estate transactions. That's a value in excess of over $300 million. So when that's enough about what I do professionally. What I'm talking about today is perspective, and so you understand the perspective I have. I'm not originally from Dallas. I'm like most Dallasites. I moved here, and I'm very thankful to be here. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. When I was in high school, my family moved to the thriving metropolis of Boerne, Texas, which is about 30 miles northwest of San Antonio.
Boerne,
in the hill
Texas?
Country. That's right. Boerne. It's a little
wow.
German town.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, in honor of the Byron Nelson today, Jimmy Walker also lives in Boerne. I think he grew up maybe just south of Boerne, north part of San Antonio, but he lives there now.
Shout out to Jimmy Walker.
Shout out to Jimmy today. I went to a military school, and I actually met my wife in school there. We didn't date there. She was a civilian student, which is a concept that I think is going to be foreign to most people. But if you went there, it means something.
They had civilian students at military school?
That's right. That's right. Non-military students at a military school. It's interesting.
That's intriguing. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, maybe that'll be our next podcast. Talking about military school.
Okay.
I loved it. It was great. And that was Texas Military Institute. Also the alma mater of Douglas MacArthur for any history buffs. And I hope you're a history buff today because we got a historical show for you.
A little bit, sure.
I have a degree in real estate. I have no idea what that means. I got it at SMU, which is just down the way here.
Yeah.
My father's a real estate broker. My brother is a real estate broker. My uncle's a real estate broker. My mother's a real estate broker. I have 2 cousins that are real estate brokers. I had absolutely no choice, even though I never wanted to get into real estate, but to get into real estate. And so I started my career actually here in Dallas after working for my father and my uncle in December 2006. And so I've been here ever since, and I'm very fortunate to be here. And anybody that's been to or around Dallas will tell you that quite a lot's changed in that point in time. I think that Plano, Texas was just where people raised cattle at the time. But
I heard we got tunnels under the city now. Things are nuts. We're all over the place.
We got a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So through my experience in real estate, I learned that for me, I have a passion for working with tenants and users of commercial real estate. I don't represent landlords. I don't work with landlords. I don't lease buildings. Our firm doesn't lease buildings. We view that as a conflict of interest. I'm here to provide clients with the resources and awareness so that they can make informed decisions at financially optimal terms with flexible lease options. And the biggest thing that I would tell you about that is if you're leasing space or if you're buying, we want for your arrangement to inhale and exhale. We want it to be flexible. So why do people work with someone like me? Well, I'm not the smartest guy in the room by any means. Zach, I'm looking at you. So
technically, I'm not in the room with you. So to be fair,
fine.
Yeah.
I'm inside the box on outside the box,
That's
and you're
right.
outside the box on outside the box. So I'm going to defer to across the pond, if you will, in the University of Leeds. And the University of Leeds published a report, and it was called, very creative, Commercial Property Agents and Conflicts of Interest. And that's exactly what it's about. And what they found was that the average business owner didn't understand the conflicts of interest and the clear risks that were associated with what are more or less the Chinese walls that firms were employing to separate two sides of the house, being the leasing side represents the landlord and the tenant side representing the tenant. And it was actually, shout out to Adam Baker. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Adam. But
of course.
Adam Baker commented that it was very difficult for clients to spot a suboptimal deal. And what happened as a result of this report is that in the United Kingdom, their governing body, the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, they're surveyors, not real estate brokers there, actually took steps in January of this year to eliminate the practice of double dipping, which would be dual agency here in the United States, representing both landlords and tenants. And to add to that, there was a recent article by CoStar that highlighted this, and it commented that medium-sized businesses really lack the resources and awareness of the potential impacts of double dipping from a financial standpoint, and they really didn't understand all the factors that were involved. So what does that mean? That's why people hire me. I understand those risks. I understand those factors, and we don't have these so-called Chinese walls at our firms. We're focused on the tenant. We don't care what building you go to. We just want to make sure that you get the best deal and the best space that's for you. And the way that I explain our business, and this is especially applicable in renewals, we don't, by the way, just represent tenants on new leases. We represent them on renewals. And dependent upon the market, especially in the late 2000s, I'd say probably 85% of our business was renewing tenants in existing leases in existing buildings. And about 70% of our business is working with existing tenants in existing buildings. And the legal system is a lot more interesting than what we do as real estate brokers. And the reason I reference that is I'm kind of like an attorney. If you go to court because you broke the law, the U.S. justice system is going to have an attorney that comes to court for them, and that's in the form of the district attorney. And the district attorney went to law school. He prosecutes cases all the time, and his job is to prosecute. And the state believes that you should have representation, so much so that if you can't afford one, thanks to the Miranda rights, they will pay, or the taxpayers will pay, for you to have an attorney. Now, as in anything, you have the right to represent yourself, but no one represents themselves.
Nobody.
It's only a fool would do that. So why would only a fool do that? Well, number one, you get emotional. So if you're sitting in a jail cell, all you are doing is stewing over your case. You went to court, you pled your case, you go back to jail, and that's all you think about. The district attorney went to court. He pled the case for the state. He left at 5, met some friends for cocktails on the way home, went and saw his wife, kissed his kids, and then had dinner, watched a few TV shows on TV, had a couple more cocktails, went to bed, worked out in the morning, and then right before the case, he started thinking about it and said, you know what? That's right. I need to think about that case. Let's do it. So it takes the emotion out from the state's part because he's not emotionally involved in it. But you know what? If you're sitting in a jail cell, that's all that you can think about. And emotion really is oftentimes a businessman's worst enemy. You really can't make good decisions if you get emotional. So if the other thing that an attorney can do for you, and this is, I used to have an attorney that worked for me.
Oh,
and, it was very interesting to get their take on what we do and what attorneys do. But the thing about attorneys is they know how to ask for things. That's part of going to law school or reading the law. The other thing is the judge is there to help the attorneys plead their case. He's there as the mediator. He's there to help them. But the only way that they're able to get this help and get this knowledge from the judge is if they know how to ask for it and how to approach the bench and how to go through the motions. And as a layperson defending myself, I have no idea how to do that. The other thing is, if I really have an issue, I can go meet with a judge in the judge's quarters and say, look, judge, I need some help. Can you help me out? This is what I'm looking to do. And you know what? He's willing to do that. So in essence, they're able to get the answers that they're looking for because they know how to ask for it. And that's really why people hire me, is that's all that I do. All I think about all day long is, how do I get you the best deal? How do we create a good structure so that it inhales and exhales for you like we talked about? The other thing is, if you do a couple leases as a business owner, that's pretty good. But a good month for me, man, I hope I can do 5 to 10 leases in a month. And as a business owner, you do 5 leases, that's a lot of leases.
Is that that's like an average or a high end? I mean, where do you land on that?
Average lease term, call it 5 years. And if you're in business for 25 years and you own the business and you have the decision-making power to sign a lease 5 times for 25 years, that's a pretty darn good career.
Yeah.
But you learn through repetition, through volume, in the same way that the attorneys learn. I mean, why do you have lead prosecutors and then junior counsel? Well, same reason. So you're paying me to ask the questions in a way that gets the response that we're looking for.
Sure.
The other thing is, real estate is our core business. That's all we do. Just like if you have a great relationship with your landlord, that's great. I want you to have that great relationship with your landlord. But you're probably not going to be hesitant in asking for things and get really contentious. I'm happy to be the bad cop. You can be the good cop all you want. The other thing is, we don't cost you anything. In a market like Dallas, Texas, I don't cost you anything. It is your benefit to use me, and I'm here. I'm out there. Just ask. We know the market. We're extremely active in it. We have a fiduciary solely to our clients. We have an in-depth knowledge of the market, and we can leverage the best deal possible. We understand the supply and demand of the market and the submarkets, and we're able to use that to our advantage. We understand a lease and negotiate that as well as renewal leases. We have insight regarding the landlord's business philosophy. We save you time. We take emotion out of the transaction. And we have a fiduciary, and this is actually a duty that the state asks of us as well. We have a duty to show you all the properties in the marketplace. If we're representing you, we have a duty to represent you, not our own self-interest, which goes back to that conflict of interest that we talked about.
I'm going to be honest. It seems like it'd be easy for a organization to maybe not do that, to hold some cards back and kind of play it out in the best way possible. It doesn't. Why do you lean away from that? Why not?
Why do I lean away from what? From
I realize my question
playing
wasn't
the bad
exactly,
guy, or
I guess
from why do people not hire me?
Yeah, let's go that way.
They shouldn't. They should always hire me. I'll take it one step further. I'm working through my own lease. We're expanding office space right now.
Oh wow!
And it's the hardest lease I have ever negotiated. I know the owner.
Yeah.
I actually helped him buy the building, but I don't lease the building because I view that as a conflict to represent him and lease it. So most people don't know their landlords. They say they know their landlords. They know the property manager. It's typically Blackstone or something. And then I go, really? So have you met the New York guys? Do you know Steve Schwartzman? Oh, you don't. You know Betty in the management office. Okay.
You know,
in
of
this
your
case,
landlord.
right? In this case, I do actually know the landlord, the guy that I cut the checks to.
Yeah.
It is the most awkward and difficult lease I have ever negotiated. So much so, I have thought about letting someone else in my firm handle it because it's too emotional for me.
This is your own lease.
Right. For me, every single term, I just see dollar signs, and it is so hard for me to take that out and not get emotional about it.
We talk about being emotional. I'm curious, why are you in business real estate? Why not residential? Why offices? Why business?
That is apples and oranges.
Oh yeah?
Totally. So
yeah.
Here's the difference. Residential, the whole thing is different. First of all, the majority of that's going to be selling homes.
Right.
And really with that, you're looking to transfer title.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're transferring title, the documentation, once the title gets transferred, the documentation really doesn't matter. Maybe some reps and warranties do, but the rest of it doesn't. The other thing is there's things like Fair Housing Acts. There's discrimination laws. There are promulgated forms, so everybody's going to use the same form. That's not the case with businesses because it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you pick any office building. We're in a beautiful complex here in one of the best buildings in the whole Metroplex.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you for hosting us here.
Likewise.
This complex has, 200 tenants in it? 300 tenants? Something like that.
Yeah.
Every single tenant has a different lease terms, different structure, different rates. So what does it all mean? How do you know if you're even getting a good deal?
Mm.
The other thing is when you ride around, you look at homes, and actually I'm a real estate broker, not a salesperson, so I sponsor salespersons. There's another level of education, experience, et cetera, in order to be able to do that. And I can absolutely represent myself in my own home transaction, but I don't. I worked with a residential realtor. I work with a residential realtor to sell my house as well because I don't know the market. I don't know what's going on. And quite frankly, I would have never been able to buy my home if I didn't work with a residential realtor. It's so different from what I do. The majority of what we do is leases because most businesses, it makes more sense to lease than to own.
Yeah.
And, you know, a typical lease could be 75 pages. The lease that I have is 76 pages. And so if you've ever bought a home, a residential contract is promulgated, so it's all on the same form.
Yeah.
It's about 10 pages long or 15 pages long. And I laugh because you ride around and look at homes, and the realtor that you're with goes, "So, did you like the home?" "Yeah, it was great. I loved it. It's beautiful." I didn't think I was going to buy a home today, but next thing I know, oh, man, I got a contract for you. We're just going to fill out the price. Do you think this is a good price? Yeah, absolutely. You know what? We'll figure out the funding part later. Don't worry about that. Yep, I just need initial here, initial here, initial here, sign here. Hang on. I'm going to go run back in that house, and I'm going to submit the offer. And next thing you know, you made an offer in a home, and you weren't even planning to buy a home. You just thought you were looking at some nice, I don't know, backsplashes and wood floors or something.
You tend to put the cart before the horse.
Absolutely.
I guess what I'm getting at is, like, residential seems so much more emotional than business. Business seems cold and calculated, but
That's right.
It's not. And you're aware of that. Like you were just saying in your own case, like emotion gets caught up in it.
Yeah. I mean, how's it not? When when you're stroking the check every month, it gets very painful.
Yeah.
And that's, if I can get 10 cents, I'm going, sweet, that's 10 cents that I can put towards something else.
Sure.
But yeah, it's different. You need the representation. In fact, I was with a landlord a couple years ago, and it was a big institutional landlord from the West Coast, and we were having drinks, and she said, "I'm so frustrated with people like you." I said, "Really?" She said, "Well, I keep getting all these comments and you want to make all these changes to my lease form. And I snickered and said, well, your lease form is 70 some odd pages depending on what we want in it and the different options and the things that we asked for. And she said, yes. And I said, you know what? That's the great thing about the great state of Texas. We have 2 promulgated forms. We have one that's put out by the Texas Association of Realtors, and we have one that's put out by the North Texas Commercial Association of Realtors. The next lease I do with you, let's use one of those forms. What do you think she said?
I have no idea.
Absolutely not. My investors would never allow me to do that. And I said, exactly. And quite frankly, your attorneys would be really upset because they're getting $10,000, probably more than that. They're probably getting $90,000 off creating the lease. So here's the thing. Buying a home, I'm not going to say that it's less technical. It's different. You don't trade proposals. You just send them a contract. We'll spend 6 months trading proposals with different landlords, and then we'll have a 75-page lease to work through. And the thing that's important about that is we're transferring title when we're buying something. We have to live with that document for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I was working with a group that had 180,000 feet, and they moved into this building, and they originally took about 5,000 feet.
Yeah.
And they just grew organically, like all good businesses. Well, they had to live with that same lease over 25 years that they signed as a 5,000-foot tenant when they were 180,000 feet. And there's a lot of things that will change that landlords will give on. I mean, signage rights is one. To get your name on the side of the building, they'll change that if you grew that much. But, you know, they had exclusions in there to prevent them from that. And they could renegotiate them, but that's just things that you want to be aware of when you go to renew. And so, look, it just behooves someone to work with a professional. And I don't cost you anything. So just hire me. And I'll take it one step further. People have this concept of, well, if I don't work with you, I'll just credit it back. Because in residential, this is one place that you see that a lot. Typically, it's a 6% commission on the home price. And, you know, you've seen Redfin and Door and some of these other groups come in and compress that. But let's say it's a 6% commission that they're expecting. So you go and you tour the house and you come in and you go, all right, 6%, that's great. I'm not bringing in a realtor. Will you credit that other 3% to the sale price? I would say 99 times out of 100, they say, absolutely, where do we sign? Let's just get the deal done. The difference is in a commercial office lease, their portfolio, it could be 10 million square feet or more. So let's use Blackstone again, huge portfolio. So let's say that Blackstone has underwritten this entire 10 million square foot portfolio. And you're leasing 20,000 feet. And if you're leasing 20,000 feet, you probably have very easy 100-plus employees.
Wow.
Good-sized company.
Yeah.
Well, if you went to the landlord and said, hey, why don't you credit this back towards my rate? I'd say 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, they'd say, absolutely not. We already underwrit this portfolio. Why are we ever going to do that? The other thing is, the leasing agent that they hired that they don't tell you about, they have a master listing agreement on that building. They get double the commission if I'm not involved. So the person leasing the building is incentivized to not have someone like me because they make twice as much. And as far as the landlord's concerned, it's pennies on the dollar. They've already allocated for it. They've budgeted for it. They've underwritten it into the deal. They don't really care. They're going to pay it one way or another. And if you don't bring somebody, they're just going to say, fine, we'll give the leasing agent twice as much.
Sure. If you don't have an attorney, you're probably going to lose the case.
You got it.
Yeah.
Back to the attorney.
To bring it full circle.
That's right. We're going back to the attorney.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. That's who I am. You know, hopefully in the future, we want this show to be fun. And if Zach tells me that real estate is fun, then awesome.
I'm into it so far. Yeah. You haven't lost me yet.
Well, you know, I don't know about you, but I love history. So one of the things about perspective and history, you know, we live in a great city that has a lot of real estate and a lot of great real estate history. And the other day I was thinking about the history of commercial real estate. There's a lot of articles about the history of residential real estate.
It's a pretty deep well there.
That's right. But commercial real estate, quite frankly, I didn't know anything about that. So I started looking into it, and I found it quite interesting. You know, back in the early years of 334 BC, there was some guy by the name of Alexander the Great.
Alex, huh? Never heard of him.
Alex. He went and defeated the Persians. And when he defeated the Persians, he aggressively acquired their land. And so I am told that is the start of commercial real estate. The next mention of it is in the 11th century with William the Conqueror. And he declares that he owns all of England at the time, which really then provides a marketplace for commercial real estate. Once again, this was after defeating the Normans.
It's a power play.
That's right. Totally a power play. And actually, if you go to Britain, anywhere there, much of the real estate is still owned by the royal family.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely. How do you think they're paying for this wedding this weekend?
It's a good question.
Lots
honestly.
of real estate.
Yeah.
Lots of real estate.
Mm.
So really where I came into play was in 1732 with the British Debt Recovery Act. And what the British Debt Recovery Act allowed was for debtors to seize personal property and land for the recovery of costs. So, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. I've been told that that was because there were so many people in debt and went to debtor's prison and so forth. So what do? You just start to take their land. And in Europe, that's one thing. But in the United States, we love debt. What's our debt average at? How many trillion?
Oh, I thought it was like 14 or something.
A lot more than I have. I think we can probably stick it all the way around the room here.
Yeah.
In the United States, we're always going to bend the rules a little bit. So what did we do? We said, we got all this land.
Sure.
We're just going to use this as money. This is like a new form of currency. And so we started to use it in the New World as a form of currency. So they were able to use land as currency, which really started to create this whole real estate agency. With that, you see the emergence of real estate agents and attorneys. And so they found that attorneys were the best way to record the title and transfer the title, which we talked about with residential, well as buying buildings.
Yeah.
And they found that an agent was the best way to find buyers and sellers. So everything moved smoothly until 1783. This guy named Napoleon really starts to seize countries all over the place. Same year, a group called Jones Lang Wooten was founded in Britain. Today, there's a company that's a competitor of mine named Jones Lang LaSalle, or JLL.
Yeah.
This is the founding of JLL.
Really?
1783. So, 1803, back in the United States, one of the best real estate deals. Well, I guess that's all about which side of the fence you're on.
Yeah.
But one of the least expensive real estate deals, the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, I still wonder if France is bitter about that.
I'm sure they're
a little
very
maybe
bitter.
Yeah.
But they got a lot to be bitter about.
Sure.
This podcast will be broadcast in French, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Bilingual.
All right, good. We'll have to edit that. So anyways, 1855, Baird and Warner is formed in Chicago, and this is really the start of real estate in the United States. And they recorded a $5,000 mortgage on Washington Avenue, and that is, as I'm understanding, the oldest brokerage firm in the nation. And they're residential, but still, kicked it off in the United States. 1867, Alaska Purchase. 1872, Jones Lang and Company was founded, and that was through a merger with Jones Lang Wooten. And Jones Lang, until very recently, was known as Jones Lang. So it carried in for a long time. 3 years later, 1875, Meredith and Grew was founded in Boston. That's now Colliers, which is another large competitor. 1906, Lynch and Coldwell was established in San Francisco, which is now CB Richard Ellis, also Coldwell Banker. A lot of people don't realize that the Coldwell Banker is the CB in CB Richard Ellis, or CBRE. 1908, National Association of Real Estate Exchanges, which is now the National Association of Realtors, was formed. And it's really after this that real estate brokerage companies came to fruition, came onto the scene. 1914, right here in the heart of Dallas, Henry S. Miller Company was founded. And it was founded as an independent brokerage and property management firm. And Henry S. Miller, who was a real guy, was even once called the, quote, master of real estate brokerage, which is a pretty awesome title because I don't think anybody's ever called me a master of anything.
It's quite the title.
Not even my own destiny.
Master of your own podcast.
Kind of, to a certain extent. You're really driving the boat here for me.
You know, somebody, I'm pulling the sail. All right, that's all. I got it. Yeah, it's fine. Rowing the boat.
So 1917, 7 years later, one firm that came onto the scene was Cushman & Wakefield in New York. And I'm an alum of Cushman & Wakefield, so to a certain extent, that's tied into me. And what you'll learn is a lot of this ties into me, including the Henry S. Miller. 1929, Newmark was founded in New York, still around, Newmark, Grubnight, Frank. 1930s, that's when states started to require a real estate license to act as a real estate agent, and it was really where title insurance and the industry started to evolve and gain steam as a way to protect buyers and sellers. 1940, Society of Industrial Realtors was born. It's now known as the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. At the time, it was SIR. Now it's SIOR. It was 14 months before the U.S. entered World War II. I'm an SIOR designee. It's important to me. Now there's 3,200 of us globally. At the time, there were 200 across the U.S. and Canada. And the reason that it was created is it was created really as a result of World War II, because they needed a national and Canadian, so U.S. and Canadian network to help with industrial warehousing requirements that were spawned out of all this ramp-up that went into the World War II industry. As you may recall, Boeing was building warplanes. All the car manufacturers were building warplanes. If it was being built or created, it was going towards the war efforts.
It was a great time in American manufacturing.
That's right. Great time in American manufacturing. So let's fast forward. We're going to stop it at 1940, and we're going to move to Dallas. And anybody that's familiar with Dallas or comes to Dallas looks around and says, boy, a lot of stuff was built in the 80s. We're sitting in a building that was built in the 80s.
Yes, we are.
1975 to 1985 is, I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that. That was the heyday of development in real estate. And there were 4 big developers in the DFW area. And these were 4 of the biggest developers really in the country at the time. One was Trammell Crow Company. That was founded in 1948 by Trammell Crow. One was Lincoln Property Company, which was founded in 1965. It was founded on Lincoln's birthday. And it was founded here in Dallas. It was a partnership of Trammell Crow, who founded his company in 1948, and Mac Pogue. So, once again, touches Trammell Crow. That's going to be a very common theme that you're going to hear here. Vantage Companies, started by John Ulick. He was a Trammell Crow partner. And then the 4th developer that was really, really big, and when I say big, these are big national developers, was Paragon. William Cooper was a Lincoln partner, which, if you remember, was a Crow and Pogue partnership.
Right, yeah.
So just about everyone in some way, shape, or form points to Trammell Crow. And my father, my uncle, actually 2 of my uncles worked for Vantage Company. So I think for me, I'm thankful for Trammell Crow in many ways. But the 1960s and 70s, Henry S. Miller really starts to perfect tenant representation as a firm. And 1970 to 1977, there was a young man from the Navy, happened to win Super Bowls for the Cowboys, named Roger Staubach, that went to work for Henry S. Miller. And it's actually a great story about Roger. He had, I believe, 3 kids at the time, needed money because they didn't make a whole lot of money playing real estate or playing football, and started working as a real estate broker and started working as a tenant rep real estate broker, which is important, and I'll touch on that in a second. So he learns the tenant rep business working at Henry S. Miller. 1977, the Staubach Company was founded. 1985, fast forward, there was a very famous meeting, and I'm holding a letter here that's a copy of a letter that Zach can see that's from the Staubach company, from Roger Staubach, that talks about a lunch that he had. And what they did is they brought in your big developers and had a powwow, because Trammell Crow really didn't like tenant rep brokers like me. He didn't pay tenant rep brokers. And the market was dominated and controlled by developers. So Roger came in and said, well, we're going to represent tenants, and we're only going to represent tenants, and we're going to carve our niche out representing tenants. And needless to say, he prevailed, and in 2008 he sold his company for over $600 million to Jones Lang LaSalle. But I'm going to back up a little bit. So I talked about how everybody in real estate, and when I say most people in real estate came out of one or two schools of thought, most of them came out of one or two schools of thought. I came out of a couple. So I talked about the New York side. Well, 1996, a company called Stream Realty Partners was formed by a couple of old Trammell Crow guys. That was where I got my first job in real estate in Dallas.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
So I go back on a couple of these fronts. 2006 was a big year. Trammell Crow Company sold to CB Richard Ellis. So CB, JLL were gobbled up. 2015, I was working at Cushman at the time. DTZ acquired Cushman, kept the name as Cushman, but moved the headquarters to Chicago. 2016, Whitebox was founded by a Stream and C&W alum. And that's really where the history of Dallas real estate commences, as far as I'm concerned. 2016 was a big year for real estate in this town. But I say all that, and that I really just wanted to give a history of what the real estate industry is here, how I got here, what my perspective is. Because as I hope you tune in on our next podcast, you're going to wonder why I say the things, why I think the things that I do. And as far as I'm concerned, it really comes back to perspective. Whitebox was founded to be different. Why? Why are we founded to be different? We were really founded and developed out of a concern of loss of the client attentiveness in the commercial real estate industry, and really a loss of focus. And so that's what we do. We focus on commercial real estate. A lot of firms measure their successes based on sales rates, but really we try and measure it on client satisfaction, because at the end of the day, if I do a good job for the people that I work with, they'll continue to work with me, and I can continue to count on that business in the future. If not, there's just too many of us out there, and they're going to go with someone else. And you know what? Work ethic is important. I think it'd be hard to say that anyone at our firm doesn't work harder than anyone else. And you know, we want to be different. We're really proud of being different. I wear suits. I don't want to wear suits. I wear suits because people think that I'm supposed to wear suits. But we don't want to be the stereotypical real estate firm that's a bunch of guys in suits with their arms crossed behind a mahogany desk. We want to be fun. Our ad campaigns, I had an ad get kicked off Facebook. That's right. I'm okay doing that.
Yeah.
I want to have fun. We want it to be fun. So we're tenant focused. We have in-house project management. We're a turnkey solution to our clients. We have no conflicts of interest. We have unparalleled service, unparalleled nimbleness and flexibility. We'll make sure that you have a detailed negotiation of the letter of intent. We'll make sure that the business points are incorporated in our lease review. And we're here to be transparent. I tell my clients that I'm like a fire and forget missile. You tell me where you want to go and what you want to do, and you push the button. You can be as involved or uninvolved on the process, but darn it, I'm going to make sure that we get from A to Z. And a successful project for me is that we start looking at options, we get through the lease negotiation, we manage the construction and move-in process for you, and you walk in, you open the drawer, there's pins in the drawer, you turn on the computer, and there's a dial tone on the phone. That's what success looks like for me.
Well, as far as A to Z is concerned, I think I should let you know we are just about out of time.
Thank you for that. I always need that.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to jump in.
I want everybody to thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to contact us, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us at 214-380-4570. If you got a topic you want us to talk about, we're always open for suggestions. You can also email us at contact@whiteboxrealestate.com. You can go to our website. That's www.whiteboxrealestate.com. Thank you for joining us on Outside the Box. And remember, kites rise against the highest against the wind. Until next time, this is your host, Grant Pruitt, signing off.